Okay, so we are live now and recording now. I don't see any questions yet, but as I get talking, feel free to start typing in some questions. So if you don't know me, you probably know me a little bit, but my name is Bridgit Danner. My site is bridgitdanner.com and our shop is Hormone Detox. So we sell a number of supplements in our shop, and the biggest category we have is digestion. Even though our name is sort of hormones and detox, the fact is that everybody needs support for digestion, especially nowadays when we're exposed to a lot of processed foods and pesticides and antibiotics and stress. It just really puts a strain on the digestive system. So to to help people kind of decipher the supplements we have in the shop and understand their digestion better, I recently came out with 2 new guides. So you may have already received these by email, but if you're just hearing about them, just go to bridgitdanner.com. Then right there on the, let me write this in here. Hi, someone's from London. That's great. Galina. You can just go to the homepage and right at the top, you'll get an opt-in for this gift. So I started out making this guide. It's called the Top-Down Digestive Guide, a digestive repair guide. But it got really long, and I know that when you download something, you don't want to have to be overwhelmed by it. So we still have it available, but as sort of a backtrack, I ended up making this guide, which is the quick start guide to digestive supplements. Once you open it and get it, you can click through to the bigger guide. So if you want to read more, you can. You want to learn. I want everyone to learn as much as they can, but I want to, give it to you in bite-sized pieces. So we started with this guy, and I'll just give a little talk about the concepts that are kind of in the quick guide and then deeper in the deeper guide. So main thing I want to stress is that digestion is not just the microbiome. That's a very important topic and a really popular topic right now, but it's definitely not everything that goes on with digestion. And you can really be barking up the wrong tree if you only work on the microbiome. So before I give this little lesson, I'll just say, as kind of a celebration of these guides coming out, everything in the digestion category of our shop is 10% off through next Monday. And also our GI map stool test is 10% off through next Monday. So if you just want to try a couple supplements as you learn and say, oh, I've got a trouble spot in this area, you can purchase the supplement. Our shipping is always free after $150 in the US. But if you want to try a GI map, you can ask me more about that. We have a new blog out on it, and I'll try to cover it a little bit today. Okay, so back to this. I hope you can see it. So these are the key organs of your digestive system, and you can see that they're, a lot more than just the large intestine. So the first one we're going to talk about is the brain. The brain controls everything really in the body, including the digestive system. And through the nervous system, and especially a nerve called the vagal nerve that passes kind of throughout the digestive system, it's controlling movement and function in the digestive system. So if you have an inflamed brain, which is another ebook I wrote, and it's also linked in there, you could be having some digestive symptoms. So if you've been hit in the head, if you've had emotional trauma that affected you, if you've had mold exposure, there's a lot of different things that can trigger the brain being really injured. You can have autoimmunity to the brain, or there's things that are, I don't know, I guess you could say more subtle, like every time you drink alcohol, that inflames the brain. So if you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you're getting a lot of brain inflammation. Some of the key symptoms of the brain being inflamed and not serving the digestive system are chronic constipation. That's a big one. And a lot of people have it, especially if you're like, I have to take 2 scoops of magnesium just to go poop. Then you definitely have this vagal nerve problem. And there's some exercises in the longer guide on how to re-stimulate the vagal nerve. Some other things could be loss of sense of smell or sense of taste. And this could be a sign of an early neurodegenerative disease. So I just highlight some of the supplements that we have for the brain. I actually just made a new brain category on the shop, but would be my number one choice. It's the inflammation repair kit through mold treatment and recovery. These are the exact supplements I used, and I made them into a kit. My lighting is a little funny here. So next area is the mouth, right? That's where chewing happens and some of the first stages of digestion. So the mouth is actually supported by smell, because you smell food, your mouth starts watering. And then you need to make saliva. And sometimes if you're taking medications, you have less saliva. Or again, if that brain connection is damaged, you could be making less saliva. Another thing that can happen in the mouth is infections. And we always get a lot of questions about this. If you have even like Lyme disease, you can have infections in the dental cavitations of your mouth. And we do sell one product for that, which is the Dental Sidon toothpaste. So it's like an herbal toothpaste that you can use every day, and you can also use it to address infections. So infections in your mouth not only stress your immune system, but they can transfer into lower in the digestive tract. So it's important to look at that area if that's an area. You might want to look up your medications to see if they cause a dry mouth. If you have a dry mouth, it might take you like a long time to eat because you're not making enough saliva. And you might not like to eat certain foods because they're harder to chew. Okay, next area is the stomach. So that is where chemical digestion happens with hydrochloric acid, and also physical digestion happens with churning in the stomach. Kind of a major thing that can go wrong with the stomach is not enough hydrochloric acid production. That again could be a signaling error from the brain, but there's some other things that deplete hydrochloric acid, and one of those is hypothyroidism, which a lot of people have. So if you don't have that metabolism to produce enough hydrochloric acid, then you could be getting some incomplete digestion there. You could have a feeling of fullness or heartburn, and you could be letting some infections pass. So the stomach in the strong acid is meant to kill things, right? Like parasite bug or parasite eggs and things that you come through with food. But if it's not strong, then you could be dealing with an issue there. Another thing to mention with the stomach is H. pylori infections. So this is bacterial infection of the stomach, and it lowers hydrochloric acid production. So it's our main kit I'm mentioning here is our H. pylori kit. So it has a product that helps reduce that H. pylori load and promotes motility. And then it's got a couple other products in there to promote healthy bacteria. So after the stomach, we go to the small intestine, and small intestine is the upper intestine and a place of a lot of absorption of nutrients and a lot of chemical breakdown of food. So the small intestine has a few helpers. One is the pancreas, and the pancreas makes enzymes to break down the food. So what can go wrong here is if you don't have enough stomach acid, then in turn you might not make enough digestive enzymes. It's like like a domino effect. Also with aging, we can make less enzymes. And again, with some brain injury stuff, you can make less enzymes. So we just did a blog about bitters last week, the bitter taste. And you don't actually have to taste it. We got one question on this because it can be in a pill too. But the bitter flavor, the bitter component, your body reacts to by moving bile, moving the bowels, and producing enzymes. So bitters are a helpful thing. You can make your own. You can buy a tincture. We sell a tincture. It's super easy to do. You can keep it in your purse. You can put it in a little water. Just put it right in your mouth to stimulate digestion. Or you can take enzymes. And I really like taking enzymes because again, we produce less when we age, and we really need to break down our food, because if it comes into the large intestine not broken down enough, you can have trouble. And it's just kind of creating this inflammatory environment, and you're not absorbing your nutrients as well as you like. So the brand that we have in our shop that I just put in there is a doTERRA brand called Terrazyme, and it has enzymes plus some bitter herbs, and it's fantastic for making you have bowel movements more often. So if you see undigested food in your stool, or you get bloated from eating a lot of different foods, so you're on a limited diet, I would really think about doing like a broad spectrum digestive enzyme. And another area here, I guess this all looks backwards to you guys, is the liver gallbladder. So the liver makes bile and the gallbladder stores it. So some signs that you have an issue here could be you have trouble digesting fatty foods, you avoid them, you burp them up. Could also be trouble losing weight, cellulite. So, what was I going to say? This one can be like a hidden thing that people don't realize. Also, if you don't have a gallbladder, you have nowhere to store it. So you may need some support in this area too. So this is liver gallbladder complex. Is kind of a herbal nutrient support we have for liver gallbladder, especially important if you don't have a gallbladder. And then I just mentioned our multivitamin, because the liver needs a lot of, especially B vitamins and some others, to do its job. So it's a nice little liver gallbladder support that we carry. And that could help move digestion too, and move the bowels. And let's see. Okay, I guess we're ready for the large intestine. So we do have the most products in the large intestine category. Large intestine is about the microbiome, but it's also an area where water is sort of recycled back into the body. So you need to be hydrated. You need to have a good electrolyte balance to reabsorb that water. And then it's a site where a lot of bugs can live. Bacterial overgrowth, candida, parasites. So we have some kits for all of that, and more information in the short guide, and also in the long top-down digestive repair guide. And then lastly, we've got some supplements to sort of rebuild. So if you do go in and try to kill some infection, then you want to come back and rebuild. So the kind of core of that would be our Megaspore Biotic. It has these strains of bacteria that actually direct activity, production of friendly bacteria, and sort of starvation of unfriendly bacteria. So that's the core product. But I really love the products that kind of go with it. One would be the Mega Prebiotic. It's a powder. You have to start out kind of slowly, because even though it's meant to cause bloating, many of us are so sensitive to fibers. We don't eat enough variety of fibers, that you do have to start slowly, and you're supposed to have it in a big cup of water over the course of the day. And that really helps feed the friendly bacteria. And then they've also got a product called Mega Mucosa that builds the outer lining of the large intestine up. So that's this slimy, mucousy layer that has a lot of immune activity in it. And we test a lot of people in the GI map, and most of them have a deficient amount of this mucosal layer. One reason is just from stress. It kind of suppresses that immune activity. And another is having infections for a long time, and that immune system is also depressed. So that's a nice way to build it back up. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. So small intestine, let's go back there for a second. That is an area that doesn't have much bacteria. It's not supposed to. But nowadays, a lot of people have small intestine bacterial overgrowth. That's too much bacteria being built up in the large intestine. So there is some testing for that, but there can be false negatives, because some of the bacteria there can't come up on a breath test. So generally, I just say if you're bloated every day and it gets worse and worse as the day goes on, that's a probable small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And it's cheaper to just go ahead and treat it. So the kit we have for that is called the Bye Bloating Kit. And the key supplement there is called Atrantil, and it has just 3 ingredients for motility and for killing off bacteria in the small intestine. So that's a really common problem we hear a lot about. Okay, we've got 1 or 2 questions. So constipated, or I think I have parasites, please chime in and I'd love to take your questions. So I don't know how to pronounce it, but Lorelei maybe was saying that certain foods can cause bloating, but what causes bloating on an empty stomach about an hour after waking after only drinking water or sometimes nothing? Well, I think what I could imagine could happen is you're sort of, when you wake up, your intestines start to move. And I'm wondering if there sort of was some air or bloating that was sitting overnight that's getting moved. Because you're certainly, you're not reacting to water. I don't, the only other thing I can think is we talked about is things not moving in the stomach. So if you feel like it's high up, so to speak, and the water's sitting there, that could be poor movement in the stomach. But if it's lower in the lower bowels, I think that maybe some air has shifted as you've woken up. That's my idea, but you can write back in if that doesn't jive with what you've experienced. Okay, I think that was the only question on here, but so feel free to write in, and I'm going to go take a look on Facebook. This is where it gets confusing for me to follow. Let me try. So while I do this, I'll just tell you a bit about the GI map. This is a stool test you can do from home, pretty easy to do within the US, a little bit more challenging from other countries. So contact us if you're from another country. I don't see any questions here. It's a great test because it tests for so much. It tests for markers of digestion, like certain enzyme production. It tests that mucosal layer. It tests one type of gluten sensitivity. We just had a blog come out about some of these other markers and their relevance. And then we've got an older blog about just like how the test works. I love it because it has so many different markers. It tests for H. pylori, Candida, some different forms and parasites, friendly bacteria, unfriendly bacteria. So it just gives you a lot clearer picture of, what could be going on, or what is going on in your gut. Let's see. So I'm looking on Facebook. I don't see any questions on this first page, but let me hop around, and I posted this in a few pages. Hopefully it's working. Okay, I'll check one more place. Kind of stuck. So Anna's asking how would she know she has parasites? The doctor's data stool test did not show any. Hi, Anna, I remember you. Yeah, there's a lot of kinds of parasites. So there could be a false negative because there's just so many types. So a lot of parasite experts recommend just doing a parasite cleanse once or twice a year. So that's an option. If you live with pets, you garden, there's maybe a greater chance if you travel, but really all of us could be exposed. Yeah, I think there's like hundreds of kinds of parasites. So like the GI map, I think is just testing some of the more common ones. Otherwise, how would you know? I mean, you could see them, but you have to take a look at your stool to see them. You might see something that looks like grains of rice that could be eggs or long strips. That's how I found my parasite the first time. If you see something that looks like a noodle and you didn't eat a noodle, it's probably a parasite. If you feel like restless leg, that could be a sign. Sometimes you get parasites behind your eyes. I had a client actually with that once. I think she got it from seafood. So, and it can happen. So enemas won't necessarily show you the parasite. I would just check in your stool. Laura's asking sulfur sensitivity and salicylate sensitivity be treated simultaneously? If not, what should be addressed first? So you're just saying like these are different food compound sensitivities you have. Could they be addressed at the same time? I'm not sure if I'm going to get to your answer what you're looking for, but one thing I discuss in the longer ebook is about oral tolerance, which is a concept that is still a little bit new to me, that right away in your mouth you have immune cells in there, and if they think something is a threat, right away you could be developing an immune reaction to it. That's why you could eat something and feel off before it even hits your intestines. So the main premise of that, honestly, it's like a little bit beyond the scope of the ebook because it's so complicated, is to regulate your immune system. And some of that could be like the mega mucosa or just strengthening your digestion. Definitely taking enzymes is really important. And then slowly eating a broader variety of foods. And some of the ones maybe that you're sensitive to, or just other ones, just going to the natural grocery, buying a lot of different fibers. There's a recipe in, I think, the Brain book about basically chopping up like 20 different kinds of vegetables, freezing them, adding some to a smoothie to expose yourself to a little bit new kinds of fibers and foods. So it's sort of an immune reaction that needs to be addressed by addressing immunity. This is actually a pretty good example of when it's probably good to schedule with us. You can schedule just a supplement consultation with a coach to talk about it, or you could schedule a GI map to start kind of planning out a strategy. So I'm not totally sure if that's like kind of what you're looking for, but that's sort of what comes to mind when you ask about that. Julia asked, why does bloating increase after starting probiotics? Well, I think it sort of depends on the probiotics. So some of them could potentially be feeding the bacteria in your small intestine, and then you get bloating as a side effect. And others, they're sort of populating and shifting things in the large intestine. And I think, potentially the bloating could be like sort of a die-off reaction. So if you have bloating, one of the best things to do is do a binder, and especially charcoal is quite friendly for gas. So that's why it's in our Bye bloating kit. So our Bye bloating kit has a probiotic that's very friendly to the small intestine and won't feed it. Then it's got the charcoal, and then it's got that formula for small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So Julia, that may be a good fit for you. Is a GI map test the best to see what beneficial bacteria you're deficient in? The best is very subjective, but it's my favorite test. I think it's just so comprehensive. Again, there's so much in your gut, it cannot possibly test everything, but they just added 2 new beneficial bacteria that are like keystone strains, and I have been seeing those low on people. So it's pretty helpful and interesting, and again, helps you choose the right path to repopulate your gut. So do parasites come out when you take an anti-parasitic? Can you see them? Some people see them, some people don't. Some people aren't looking probably hard enough, and sometimes you're just not going to see them. So it sort of depends. But I personally, if I was the stool and see what you can find, and they go in different life cycles. So sometimes you might be getting more eggs versus mature ones. Okay. These are good questions, guys. Thank you. Deborah, Jamie, Jeanette, John, Karen's. We got 3 Karens. Any other questions? Linda, Marjorie. Hi, Sherry. Yeah, Lindy, I see on here. Remy, I like that name. Yeah, feel free to hit me with any more questions. I will go look on Facebook one more time. Getting closer. And make sure if you ask a question that you do it to panelists and attendees, maybe so they can see it. I can see them, but then more people can see them. Yeah, digestive enzymes made from mold do not contain mold, and this is like a bit of a sticking point for me. And I guess some people in the mold community argue otherwise, but they're not made. There's no mold in them. They just grow off of it. It's just like a byproduct. So our Terrazyme is made from some mold strains, and as you know, I have like a big history of mold, and it's my favorite enzyme enough that I'm selling it on the shop. So I personally don't think it's a problem, but you may see some opinions online otherwise, but I don't agree with that. Okay, let me just look in here. Does the GI map show if you're unable to digest fats or don't have enough bile? So I'm pretty sure the GI map covers lipase. Let me go take a look. It won't exactly tell you if you have enough bile, because that's not really, I don't know. I don't know if they could test that fully, because it gets kind of recycled. So I'm not sure. Let me go look at that guide. Oh wait, this is, I'm looking for an example test. So if you go into our shop, there's really quite a lot of resources about the GI map, including example results, which I hope we should probably check to update, because they have added some markers that maybe won't show on those examples. So I should double check and make sure. And by the way, this sale, like the price is already changed, so you don't have to go in and put a code or anything. I have a little video on it. Where is the example test? Oh, here we go, sample reports. I might be able to screen share this for you. Okay, I'm going to screen share, and if it's missing some of the new ones, I will try to let you know that. Okay, here we go. So this first page tests for kind of acute pathogens. So it's often a negative page, but sometimes there can be positive things, which if you're not having a lot of acute symptoms, I mostly say it's just sort of an imbalance in the digestive, population that will even out with treatment. So that's this page. There's things like C. diff and Giardia. This is the H. pylori section. It's pretty helpful because it also tells you if you have a strain of H. pylori that could lead to stomach cancer. But I treat it is that hydroproduction that we know is important. Whoops, I'm in a hotel, so my internet isn't good. Here's the normal bacterial flora. Oh, it is updated. So these two at the bottom are new strains that they added. And the guide that I use tells you more about any of these being off. And we usually start to see a pattern, like digestion is insufficient, maybe fiber intake might be insufficient, SIBO might be present. Like you just start to see a pattern based on the descriptions. And here's overall populations of total flora. Here is opportunistic bacteria. You can see this example person has 3 things off. And again, I can look up every strain and learn more about it and see, this one causes loose stool. This one can cause inflammation. This one could be associated with SIBO or whatever. So, what was I going to say? I was going to say that even though we see what's going on with them and we tell you that in the session, usually the treatment is sort of as a group. It's not like one by one. There's also the section on autoimmune triggers. I always pay attention to these. A lot of these cause rheumatoid arthritis. Some are associated with Hashimoto's or like other diseases. And again, as you go to repopulate, this should be rebalancing with everything we're doing together. Here's some on Candida and other yeasts. This isn't the best test for Candida. That would be the organic acids test, but it's still helpful because if you have enough Candida, it will show up here. Viruses, that would have to be pretty strong population in the gut to show up here, but you do see it sometimes. Here's parasites. You can see, it's like 7. It's not every parasite in the world. But I would say 25% of the time I see a parasite. And one lady I've seen with a worm, maybe 2 ladies, not a lot. But I'm sure I'll see more. So getting to the question, steatocrit is something like fat in the stool. So this could be a sign that you didn't break down fats. And these elastases are enzymes. So those are kind of 2 things that would let you know about digestion and fat digestion. This is the beta-glucuronidase. That's an enzyme that's released basically when the gut population is off. And then you can get the recirculation of estrogens and other toxins. This is the secretory IgA we talked about, the mucosal lining. I often see this low, 200, 300. This is the gluten sensitivity marker. I would say, like 25% of the time I see it. Marker of inflammation. And this is an optional add-on to the test. Zonulin is a marker of leaky gut. This marker can go up and down, I'm learning, but I think it's still interesting to see. So the gut could become like temporarily leaky to let things sort of pass and be dealt with, but I still like to see it. It can indicate some leakiness of the brain and just loss of integrity in the gut, or like how you're reacting to gluten. Sometimes I see it very high. So I hope that helps. That was a good idea that we got in. Last page has a little information about medications that may not, or that could support you in your. So you can, optionally take this to a prescribing doctor and do some antibiotics or parasite treatment, that kind of a thing. We obviously can't prescribe those in our business. So I think we got a few more questions. Let me take a look. Someone has gallbladder issues and then takes the liver gallbladder and has a boil erupt on the gallbladder meridian. Why do you think that happened? Yeah, just could be kind of moving toxins. Certainly. It's interesting. How would you know if someone needs to supplement with ox bile? Well, if you're missing your gallbladder, metallic taste in the mouth, again, trouble digesting fats, trouble losing weight when you kind of burp up fish oil. We have some of this in the guide, the long guide, but you can also kind of Google it. Sluggish gallbladder, that kind of a thing. Constipation could be another indicator. So things overlap. So you kind of have to see, well, what category sounds the most like me? All right. Sorry about the internet connection. I am in a hotel, so it's not probably great. If you have mold illness, do you automatically have candida? Yeah, usually. If you ran the oat test, you would see that if you ran it with your mold test. So you may not have. You don't have to be symptomatic to have a lot of candida. I was in that category. If you eat really well and you don't do anything to feed candida, you might not really feel like you have candida, but it's still wreaking some havoc. So I see one hand raised, but it may be an accident. Wendy, did you want to be brought on, or did you just have a question? Sometimes people raise their hand on accident, but feel free to let me know. So, one thing to note is that we all react potentially differently to supplements, and you have to know your body, work with a doctor, especially if you're elderly or you're trying to get pregnant, or you have a lot of complicated different illnesses. You react to supplements quite strongly, maybe because you have chronic inflammatory syndrome. One supplement someone may love and the next person is like, oh, it makes me bloated or it makes me constipated or whatever. So this can be a little trial and error. That's just sort of how it is. That's just how it is. I just came out of this digestive class a few weeks ago and he's like, try stuff like and he's really a leading functional medicine expert, but we're just all different, and definitely start slowly. I mean, some people can only do a half of a capsule of a binder, whereas other people can take binders 3 times a day and be fine. So again, we just are all different. You start slowly, kind of do your research, think about other things you're on and how you reacted to things in the past. But I tried to give, a lot of information in the shop and in the guides to kind of give you a better idea. I'll give one example. I love our product, the Mega IgG. It helps clean up waste, kind of die off in the gut. It helps bind to infections. I love it. It makes my stool firm and almost on the borderline of constipation. So I try to take it in the morning because I feel that's less constipating. Now, other people may say, well, it doesn't slow me down at all. Again, we're all different. So just have to kind of roll with it and give stuff a try. I have really hand selected everything in our shop, and I feel really good about it. I've tried it all. It's worked on clients. So it's well vetted, but even still, things happen. And sometimes things are just like coincidence. You know, you're just getting something at the same time that you're starting something. But so you got to start slow, start one at a time, that kind of a thing. Any more questions? Any supplements that you want to talk about? I'll put the shop link in here. And again, the discounts are already taken for a few more days through Monday. Is it okay to take the IgG along with charcoal and chlorella? I think it's okay. Chlorella isn't a strong binder, but charcoal is stronger. So you can take it together, but the charcoal is going to bind up some of the mega IgG. So you could, it's not like the end of the world, but it might be better to separate those two things. How long should you take Megaspore if you or Prebiotic if you have hydrogen SIBO? Oh, should you take it at all if you have that? It's not meant to irritate SIBO, but I have seen it cause a little bit of bloating. So it's just, again, one you have to start really slowly. I would treat the SIBO first with Atrantil, maybe even for 2 months, do the low FODMAP diet, read the whole guide, take enzymes, you know, get on top of your SIBO problem first, and then later add the fiber and add maybe very little. Do a quarter dose over water over the day. Supplement for forming stool, Galena, is the mega IgG. And it's the dose is usually 4 a day, and you can take that all at once. I take it in the morning. If you are very loose stool, you might want to take it at night and see if that helps you. I really like that product. I like a lot of their new products. The mega IgG, I love. The mega mucosa is very effective. The mega prebiotic has been proven to be really effective. The chat, Galena, if you're on a phone, you have to go to participants and then chat. And the information I showed, you mean about the GI map? I can put that link in the chat. That's kind of on the Diagnostic Solutions website, I think, but I'll just put it in the chat. And it's on our shop. And if you go to the GI map, then you can see the example report. What if you have low zonulin? Mine showed below the healthy range. What does that mean? Is it a mucosal issue? Sig A was low too. I don't think there's a low zonulin. There's just normal is below. Here, let me show the screen again. I mean, I don't know if you used a different company, but let me show you. I don't think that's quite possible. See, normal is just under 107. So even if you're like 10 or whatever, you're still normal. There's no such thing as low. Low Sig A, again, just means that mucosal lining is too thin. And that's stress, immunity, chronic infection. So Remy said he, her, she, I don't know if that's male name or female name. Finished 7 days of Flagyl antibiotics for parasites. She still has abdominal discomfort, suggestions to rebuild her gut. I would definitely do the mega mucosa. It is so soothing, and it's really great to do, in my opinion, during something like a parasite cleanse that's so potentially rough on the stomach. I actually should maybe add that to our parasite kit. The kit we have isn't the same parasite stuff I took when I had a parasite, but the parasite stuff I did was really hard on my stomach. So I would do the mega mucosa for her, and maybe even, and also be, do the mega mucosa, and then you could maybe add in after that the pre-fiber and the mega IgG and the Megaspore biotic to kind of repopulate. Oh, the Genova test said it was too low. I don't know. I mean, it might just meant at the moment everything was really tightly sealed. So I don't know what too low means. I'm not sure about that one. When we gave her enzymes and Saccharomyces. Yeah, Saccharomyces can be very soothing for the gut too, and good for loose stool. Someone was sort of asking about that. It's in the Restore Flora product we have. The difference between the mega IgG and the mega mucosa, the mega IgG is just immunoglobulins to go in and bind to things, and the mega mucosa has some immunoglobulins but less, plus like some amino acids and vitamins to rebuild the mucosal layer. So some of those products look like they contain like corn or soy. Prebiotic fiber has some corn husk in it, so it's not quite the same as corn. It's just a fiber. And then there's some things that are made from kind of a dairy derivative, but they're not really dairy. So just be, as you see those things on the label, I wouldn't be so concerned that you're going to have like a food sensitivity reaction to them. That's just kind of as a commentary, because I know some people will see that and kind of freak out. Someone's asking a product that really targets Blastocystis hominis. We just sell right now for parasites our Para 1, Para 2, and I have people do it basically for 2 months with 1 week off around the new moon. So that's what we're using. I also like the company Barlow Herbal. They have a couple of tinctures you can do for parasites as well. But we don't have like one particular one for one type of parasite. Is it okay to do a coffee enema with parasites in H. pylori present? Hi, Vladdy. Yeah, it's fine. Coffee enema is to move your liver, gallbladder, and to clean your blood. It doesn't have anything to do with digestion, really, except that that's where it's going in your lower bowel. But the point of it is to go to the blood flow to the liver and clean up the body that way. All right, these are good questions. Thanks, everybody. Let me just put a couple links from our shop in the chat, but it's easy to go find it. I would just keep in mind this closes Monday, so today's Thursday. So if you're thinking about buying the GI map test, don't forget about it too long. If you want to try some supplements, probably try to go for the free shipping and then get your discount. If you want to stock up on something like Megaspore, because you take that every month, you can stock up. Nothing's stopping you. Oh, I hope that you guys, oh no, I might have screwed up the chat. Let me go take a look. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Okay. I just did the thing I told you guys not to do, which is I was only putting my comments to the panelists and not to everybody. It's so annoying how it does that. I don't know why it does that. So I'll just now I'm putting the links where you can actually see them. So I'll put the link to the GI map and the digestion section. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I got a couple of those in here. Let me see if there's anything else. Christina, yeah, we'll put it on YouTube. It might take a few days, but we'll put this up on YouTube. I'll put the example report in the chat again because you didn't get to actually see that. Okay, looks like I didn't put too much more stuff than that in the chat. Again, if you haven't read the guides, go to the main website and you can get them there. Someone is asking how long to take Megaspore Biotic. It depends on what your goal is, but I'd say often like 3 months would be a good rebuilding time. Maybe doing some other things at the time, increasing your fiber intake, increasing water, getting moderate exercise, cutting down on sugars and alcohols, stuff like that. Okay, I see one last question. Is it okay to take multiple probiotics? I'm taking one recommended for mold, another for MCAS. I'm not sure what that is. And I still have the Spore Biotic, but I thought it was taking too much, so I stopped. They probably all are kind of different, so I don't think it's bad to take more than one. The Megaspore Biotic is usually pretty unique, then the strains are not going to be repeated usually somewhere else. It's kind of our favorite, but yeah, if you're taking some like target UTI or something in particular, it's probably fine to take more than one. Or you could kind of rotate, take one, then this one and that one. Great. Well, thanks, Zen. Thanks, Anne. Thanks for everybody who came on. It makes it a lot more fun talking to myself. Yeah. Hope you take some time to shop this weekend, give some stuff a try, give us your feedback. And, I dealt with IBS for many years, probably because I had undiagnosed mold, but really now my digestion is so solid, and I don't take a ton of stuff. Sometimes I take my Terrazyme. Sometimes if things are off, I'll take, like I just got like a stomach flu and I was taking my Mega IgG and binders, but it's not like you have to be on this stuff forever. If you get in some good habits, you only eat 3 meals a day, you drink lots of water, you move, maybe you do your vagal exercises if you need to, take some enzymes. If you just kind of support the whole system, after you've maybe cleared some infections, things should run pretty well on their own, and you're not like addicted to taking 25 pills a day. It's not the purpose. So these are really targeted supplements to get you where you want to be, and then you just use them as needed when you're a little thrown off. So like I definitely don't use Megaspore every day. It's just, you don't need to once you get solid. And if you're struggling, read the long guide or schedule with us or get a GI map, because there are instances where you're missing something and you need a separate opinion or more information to decide what to do next. But there's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. So keep an open mind, try new things, or come work with us. We're very happy to have you. Did we have we have a couple hands up? If you have a question, I don't know if you want to be in the chat. That might be the easiest way, but I think I'm going to start wrapping up. Thanks again, everyone. I really appreciate you attending. Bye.